gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Hold it, you're not that pretty. I'm a man. Wait. I shook up the wall.
I bear witness, there's only one God, Allah, and Muhammad is his final messenger. That's what I said, Larry, on the Bungle fight. Thanking you.
They call me the problem, but you could call me the can man, because anybody can get Africans, Americans, Dominicans, Mexicans, anybody can get it.
How y'all doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another edition on Split Decision. With me today is a regular on the guest, DHB CEO, the father, the trainer, the one and only, Bill Trill Haney. Pleasure having you back on Split Decision.
Yes, sir.
Hello,
brother. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Brother.
Well, you know,
Assalamu alaikum to you, brother.
Wa alaikum assalam is episode 100, and I had to bring a person that always keeps it 100 on the show on this episode. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive in right to it. There's a lot of news. Devin, Haney, and JoJo had previously agreed to fight in November. The news came out the other day that JoJo is exploring other options. So when Devin Haney confronted him on Twitter, JoJo said that I have not received an offer or a contract. So, Bill, have you sent JoJo Diaz an offer? Where does the offer stand?
Well, I reached out to MTK. You know what I mean? We've had several, also liaisons who's also reached out to MTK, on our behalf. And MTK sent back word that they were exploring their options, and it's not one or two different, people have reached out for us, to make this thing happen with MTK. We're faithful that, after talking to JoJo yesterday, that he was going to, shout out to Ness and the Boxing Boys, who, they did an amazing job yesterday of, getting down to the meat and potatoes, if you want to, so to speak. JoJo has said that he wants to fight, and he's going to be reaching out to MTK. Ironically, you know what I mean? I have to be optimistic about it, but we shouldn't be the ones that's hunting. We should be hunted, similar to what JoJo has said previously, and in the media in terms of the fight that he was fighting for. He was fighting Javier Fortuna to become the interim with the minds that he was going to fight Devin, just like what he said that on yesterday. We were more than surprised to find out that reports that have been surfacing about JoJo Diaz fighting Ryan Garcia pretty much, I think, are being spearheaded by Golden Boy and not actually Ryan Garcia. These are one of the few times that you haven't heard it from Ryan Garcia. And it's not that I want to challenge Ryan Garcia to come out. It was to my understanding that he was having mental health issues. So on one hand, we're respecting his privacy. And then on the next hand, a team such as Golden Boy is now using him and, his name and saying that they're trying to go out and make a fight and hopefully enticing him to make an early return from whatever sabbatical or whatever, treatment that he's exploring right now. So, it's disheartening to hear that you have an opportunity with a hell of a fighter in JoJo Diaz, who fought Javier Fortuna in a great fight, to be willing and able to fight Devin Haney. Then you as Golden Boy and Oscar De La Hoya, right after the fight, you make an announcement and you call on Ryan Garcia, with help, of course, by Chris Maddox and the DAZN team, well, the DAZN production team, I should say. You know, we know that we fight on the same platform. Just probably, you know, weeks, I want to say weeks before that, we had fought against Game and tough Jorge Linares, you know, three division world champion who ironically works for the same company or is a part of the same company in Golden Boy, right? Oscar De La Hoya sat ringside. He watched that hellacious ass whipping that Jorge Linares took, and he took it in such a way, you know, that even after, when Devin went into the locker room to talk to him, you know what I mean, he gave Devin his props in terms of, you know, him as a fighter and power and everything else. And the ass whooping was so vicious that by the time Devin left out the locker room and he put on some shades and that little funny ass hat that he had on, the Last Samurai, you know what I mean, he left out in a complete disguise. And when he got to the first reporter that he could talk to, he could discredit Devin. And the thing that I say is, well, why didn't you wear the funny ass looking hat and them glasses to the press conference? Because guess what? He didn't show up at the press conference screaming revenge. He didn't come to the press conference talking about that one punch, but he had them funny ass glasses on and that hat because he was in disguise, right? He was in disguise that he had just got his ass whooping, or, you know what I mean? He, you know, or he didn't want anyone to see what his face looked like, you know? And that's what I told him then when he, at the end of the fight, right? He was running around, you know what I mean? And he was high energy, but it was 12 rounds. So the fight was over with. And I had to tell him, you know, the energy that he's showing over in our corner, he needs to go back to his corner and take a look at his face. You know what I'm saying? Because when the last time that I checked, Dev whooped on him for the 10 rounds. It was 5 seconds going into the 10th round. And even that 10th round, on one of the judges' scorecards, they had Devin winning. So, you know, in terms of Jorge Linares and Golden Boy, they got a chance to see it, right? No matter what that they want to say or no matter what that they want to go around and do, they want to bounce Ryan Garcia, you know, away from Devin, and then they want to try to match JoJo Diaz up with him and hope that DAZN will pick it up. And that's what I think that Oscar is doing right now. But when you move like that and you're not sincere, what didn't come out in the wash is going to come out in the rinse. And I'm hoping that DAZN will put that pressure on the Golden Boy team, both on JoJo Diaz or Ryan Garcia, to step up and don't just claim that you champion a champion fighter, championship kind of fighter, or don't just claim that you're a warrior, but step up to the plate. And I can't say challenge because Devin is the champ. So only thing I can do is just step up to the plate. It was 90 days from the time that it was ordered for Javier Fortuna. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander, in the sense of, I'm sure that it's 90 days. We will give JoJo Diaz all of the 90 days in preparation to find some way to negotiate and make this fight happen. We believe that JoJo Diaz is a tough and game fighter. He's a good fighter. He's a fighter that you know, had a marvelous fight with Gary Russell, right? You know, and we just believe that he's a game fighter, and he's the kind of fighter that would be a next fight for Dev.
Yeah, and we're gonna go back to the Golden Boy topic in a few, but JoJo said to Devin Haney, he tweeted, "The fight that I want is Devin Haney. That's the only fight I want." He said, "I'm gonna do everything in my power to make the fight happen." So how come his team is exploring other options, if that's the case, when you did reach out to them?
Well, like I said, is that I don't think that there's no better option. There's no bigger option than Devin. Everyone, you know, they moves around and they slithers around and they act like, you know, that Devin is not the fight to be made, instead of saying that you're not ready to make the fight. It's okay to get ready to make the fight, but I only come out and I only refute the claims when they say that it's not the fight to be made. You know, Devin is a fighter that has been in social media, you know, since he's been a kid, right? On one hand, we say that the numbers of social media on Instagram or followers mean something, right? Then let's judge on YouTube and content that's out. People that know Devin, his relevancy, him being a champion, you know what I mean? And the kind of fight that he's going to bring, right? Has all the credence and the relevance for him to be considered a formidable an opponent. And when the naysayers and they come up with these different conspiracy theories about why Devin isn't the guy, then I come back, you know, and put him in a rightfully place in the Duck family on the Duck family tree. But I don't want to say that this is, and I never want to say that JoJo is being a Duck based on, you know, the conversation that I had with him yesterday. Up until then, I just said that I was starting to hear a little bit of Duck language, a little bit of Duck quack, you know, a little bit of quacking in the back. I didn't know where it was coming from, you know what I mean? And can't pinpoint it now. But one thing that I can say is that Devin is available, and he's available for his mandatory.
So just to make the contract issue clear, if JoJo Diaz team are exploring other options, you guys can't really send them a contract yet till both of the teams start negotiating seriously, right? But
Absolutely.
in order to negotiate seriously, they have to, you know, call you guys and not explore other options.
Well, ironically, though, it's not even to that. It's like if we don't negotiate, we're in a position that JoJo can then force the fight to go to purse bid, right? And whoever could pick the fight up. So we're in a position as world champions, and that, you know, we can't do anything but defend and accept all challengers. And JoJo won the right to be in the position that he's in, and I respect the fact that he did, and I respect the fact and the way that, you know, he beat Javier Fortuna. Now I just expect for him to be what he's shown to be, you know, a guy that really wants to win and a guy that wants to get to the top. So we're here to provide that opportunity.
So you're saying there's no sense in sending a contract if they are exploring other options, though?
It wouldn't make any sense at all if he didn't want to be world champion to try to negotiate with a fighter that doesn't want to be a world champion. There's nothing that we don't want an interim belt. You know what I mean? That's not what we want. We're supposed to be the ones that's getting hunted and not doing the hunting. You know, so with all respect, due respect, we show a guy that, you know, coming up the ladder in the 135 that wants to make a statement. We show him all the seriousness that we would have hoped that Lomachenko would have showed us. You know what I'm saying? Instead of choosing other narratives and stuff like that, you know, choosing saying that he has to make another kind of fight. We're honoring the fact that the WBC, you know, has put us in that opportunity to be hunted, right? So everyone says that, you know, we should complain about it, but I know, like I said, what doesn't come out in the wash is going to come out in the rinse. And if we're held to having mandatories, if we can't fight because we have to wait on the politics of boxing, then that's the world champion. No other fighter has those strict, you know, rules and contingencies that they have to adhere to.
Right. And just to make it clear, I think the WBC are supposed to order the fight within 90 days. JoJo Diaz fought Javier Fortuna for the title eliminator bout. So when did the count begin for the 90 days? Did that, because initially the WBC stated that the fight have to be made by August 9th or something like that. So does the count begin since JoJo won against Fortuna?
Absolutely. He won the position, and he won the interim belt. And so it's to my understanding that that's who the person is. Now, then it becomes on, if JoJo said, well, you know, hey, that's not me. I don't want that. That's not what I want. I don't want to do that. Then what can we do? We can't force an interim champion to get in the ring with a champion, but an interim champion can force himself to get in the ring with a champion to become champion.
Right. Well, of course, Devin Haney is the champion, but also he's the highest paid. You know, Devin Haney last fight, he made $3 million. Ryan made $500,000. JoJo made, I believe, $300,000. So by far, Devin is JoJo's biggest fight, money-wise and legacy-wise. So why explore Ryan to make less money and fight for no title if that's the case?
Well, like I said, that it was to my understanding, and I didn't expect it to be anything else, is the fact that you're fighting Javier Fortuna for the interim title to become the mandatory for the full world title, you know. And of course, you beat Devin. You know, you're able to have the fight with Ryan Garcia whenever he comes back from his issues that he's having, or a Teofimo Lopez when he's finished handling the business that he's had. You know what I mean? So you're in a great position, nevertheless, and we wouldn't want to be anything else than giving a fighter an opportunity to be great. You know, when the doors were shut on us, you know, and you know, closed, and you know, we had to take a harder route, and everyone else says that, you know, we didn't. They say we went the easier route, but we didn't go. Politics wasn't on our side and haven't been on our side in that sense. We just have to be ready to make the biggest and the best fights we can.
Well, you and JoJo had a conversation last night. JoJo reconfirmed that he will fight Devin Haney next. He also said he going to contact MTK Global to reach out to you. In fact, you told him, have MTK Global contact me, and he said, I will. So have MTK Global responded to you or contacted you since then?
Not yet, but we still will do our due diligence and continue to reach out to them and continue to be available, because that's what negotiating is all about. And we haven't closed the door on optimism, you know what I mean, or positivity going into this fight. I know this is a great fight and a great opportunity for both these young guys, and I'm working night and day on
it. So you and JoJo, obviously, on the Boxing Voice last night, JoJo revealed that Michael Coppinger contacted him in order to tell him he wanted to see him fight Ryan, completely ignoring Devin Haney, even though JoJo fought for a title eliminator to fight Devin Haney. You know, what's your thoughts on, you know, like reporters calling fighters to tell them, hey, fight so-and-so and ignore the champion, don't fight the champion? You know, he completely ignored Devin Haney, and he reported that that Ryan Garcia and JoJo are in heavy negotiations according to his sources. But JoJo told you last night that Ryan Garcia is the B word. He called him the B word, and he said, Ryan, he's trying to fight Pacquiao. That's not true. He's not trying to fight me. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, that caught me by surprise, and you see, I didn't do anything to touch it, because it's something that I don't know or understand it to happen. Is Mike, you know, to reach out to a fighter to tell another fighter that you know, that they want to make a fight happen. You know what I mean? I thought, you know, you would have, you know, in unbiased journalism, you know, you do your best to reach out to each one of the fighters and get their side of it. You know, to report then that Ryan Garcia says that he wants to fight, but then to say on the article says that his sources have something. You know, it's just it's a contradiction that I just don't want to necessarily touch, in the sense of, you know, that's between JoJo Diaz and Mike Coppinger, you know.
Well, yeah, and just to be fair, Mike Coppinger is not the only one. You see Chris Mannix, he also did the same thing when he called the fight between JoJo and Fortuna. He kept asking JoJo about Ryan, and he completely ignored Devin Haney all night. So it's not just Michael Coppinger, but at the end of the day, you have to be unbiased as a journalist instead of pushing a certain agenda. But
yeah, I wouldn't have if you know, out of respect, and you know, I've seen Mike, you know, he come up the ranks, and you know, to be over at ESPN, you know, I mean, I was expecting a little bit more detailed journalism, and the fact that he never mentioned Devin Haney in the article, you know, or being a possibility that you know, JoJo Diaz is going a different direction. It was altogether just didn't put Devin in there at all, which, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to think that Mike is being biased, and I don't want to think that he has a lack of, you know, knowledge or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's just something that's just, you know, it's like taboo. You don't even like want to touch it, man. It's so crazy because I have so much respect for Mike Coppinger. You know what I'm saying? That I would expect different, you know. And then for JoJo to say that Mike brought it to him, that Mike actually himself brought the fight to him, and JoJo saying that he's never heard Ryan talk about the fight at all, and then, you know what I mean, for Oscar to then push for the fight when Ryan is supposed to be recovering, you know what I mean, mentally, and then to come back and give him such a tough fight like that, right? Without Ryan requesting it, it seems like Golden Boy, you know what I mean, are doing some things that they shouldn't be doing, right? And that's in terms of Oscar, you know what I mean? And I think he's probably will be using the money to entice him to make the fight happen with Ryan, but I don't see Ryan right now ready, and I don't see him taking on JoJo Diaz or Devin Haney.
Yeah, but as far as the, you know, Michael Coppinger, it's definitely unprofessional, if anything, for him to report on ESPN that JoJo and Ryan are in negotiations, and his sources say that's a possible fight next for Ryan. But
JoJo, that's not what JoJo actually said. JoJo actually said that he's like, Mike told me that shit. He's like, Mike told me that Ryan wants to fight me. Other than that, he doesn't know anything about it.
That's what I'm saying. And contrary to that, JoJo is saying Ryan is the B word and he's trying to fight Pacquiao. And that's just what Michael Coppinger is telling him. So it's a whole lot of fishy things going on between Chris Mannix, Michael Coppinger. You know, it's a lot of unprofessionalism going on. But that being said, you know, obviously Floyd Mayweather had a blueprint. He fought a lot of Golden Boy fighters, and we already know what the results were. So is Devin Haney following that blueprint of that Floyd Mayweather followed, which is fight all of the Golden Boy fighters and whoop on them?
Well, Oscar know what it is. Oscar know firsthand when you look at a fighter like Devin. You know what I mean? He's like I said, he came to the last fight. He was, you know, of course, you know, we sitting front row. He got a bird's eye view of it. You know, so I think that he knows the kind of fighter that Devin is. He knows what kind of confidence we have as a team. He sent in a spoiler in Jorge Linares, and he was hoping that Jorge would do or show some things that, you know, he needed to see to make the fight, make a more confident fight with some of his fighters. But, you know, I think that unlike, you know, just like Floyd, you know, defeated the Golden Boy fighters, you know, Devin, we expect Devin to do the same thing.
And on to the next topic, which is a lot of people wanted me to get your thoughts on Teofimo Lopez testing positive for COVID days before his fight with Camposas. I never, you know, got a chance to get your thoughts on that, and a lot of people just want to get your reaction to that news.
Well, I mean, just like the Lopezes are full of contradictions. You know, they go back and forth about a lot of things. You know, they do a lot of finger pointing, right? And but they find themselves in lawsuits of all kind of sorts. One minute they're going to be in a lawsuit with Top Rank. The next minute they're in a lawsuit with Triller. One minute, you know, Triller is the best thing in the world, and you know what I mean. And going to Australia is the best thing in the world. To the next minute that's not the best thing. You know, so you know, their lies start catching up, their alibis start matching up. You know, you hit with the Rico, the repo your vehicle. It was all good just a week ago. You know that Jay-Z shit, man. You know what I mean? with T.O. 1 minute he says that Devin has nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. You know what I mean? And you hear us talking about now a fight with JoJo Diaz, right? We're talking about a fight with our mandatory. When he said that he could enforce it and he could become the mandatory, he could make us his mandatory. You know, it just he said a whole lot of things. You know, $10 million. I mean, I could just think of Tio and then I think of an excuse. An excuse will come to pop up. You know, and that's where I have him. You know.
Well, what's your thoughts? Would you agree? You know, Javante came out and said that he thinks Teofimo tested positive for COVID is a made-up story because he couldn't sell tickets. That's why he postponed the fight. What's your thoughts on that, as far as postponing the fight due to that?
Well, I mean, we know that Tank is a draw. Tank has been the big draw in the lightweight division. So when you talk about selling tickets and stuff. I mean, he's at the top of the game. So even if Tio had sold the tickets and not tested positive, I don't think he was going to outsell Tank. So
yeah, he was just saying that he think his fight he postponed his fight because he couldn't sell any tickets according to his sources.
Right, and I'm saying this: he's going according to Tank, and rightfully so. According to Tank, the tickets the Teofimo sells won't look like shit, even if he tested positive or not tested positive to Tank. So, that's how I feel about it. But him actually pulling out because of the COVID, or pulling out because the tickets didn't sell and using COVID, that's something you don't want to say about someone. You don't want to say to someone is that low down with COVID affecting a lot of the, probably every one of us, that might be in the chat or worldwide that's watching this has been affected some way, shape, or form by COVID. So that would be one of the last things that you'd want to put on a person. But with Teofimo's inconsistencies and his contradictions, at this point in time, anything is possible.
Yeah, and Javante did wish him well afterwards, though.
I do. I've always wished him and his family well. You know what I mean? And it's not that he's not a good fighter. All these guys are good fighters. I just believe that and know in my heart that Devin is a great fighter, and he'll get his time to prove it against all these guys, or at least some of them. You know what I mean? If not all of them.
Yeah, and my man, on the super chat, there is news that Teofimo Lopez is going to vacate his IBF belt if it means fighting in Australia. What's your thoughts on that?
What do we think is what as far as what?
Teofimo Lopez manager, he stated that if Triller is going to force him, if Triller is going to force Teo to fight in Australia against Composis, they're going to vacate their IBF belt if they have to. What's your thoughts on that?
I know Dave personally. Dave McWaters. He was given the Manager of the Year award last year. And Teofimo and them praised and talked about it, but we'll have to get the award back from Dave and give him the Bonehead of the Year award. If the fact that now he's having the Australia fight with all the people and all the hoopla that they made of it, and said what a big thing it would be to go to Australia and fight, and now to back out of it, you know what I mean, would be something that I wouldn't want to have to be put in a position of explaining, right, to fans that you've talked about. You've introduced us to the Australian market, so to speak, in the lightweight division. You've introduced Kambosos as being the kind of opponent that would draw in Australia, and then you guys as a team come back now and contradict that. You know what I mean? It's just it's not the thing to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, to that. Previously, Teo, he wanted to fight Composers in Australia. That's why he said he don't want to fight Devin Haney next. He rather fight Composers because he's going to fight in front of 60,000 fans. And who will pass out on that opportunity? He felt like that's going to make him a star. So what's the problem now? What changed? Because that was during the pandemic, and so he knew the protocols he had to go through if he was going to do that. So what's your thoughts on that? What changed?
Man, listen, his mind and both him and his father, their mind changes with the wind, So you just never can tell what's going to come out of what's the latest and the greatest from them, We know that we've shared some moments with them training and working and sparring, and the world has got a chance to see when Devin and Tio are together what the energy is like, Nothing has changed, They won't be able to, loudmouth and talk about what they did to Lomachenko and do any of that kind of shit to intimidate us or slow down, our willingness to fight them or, to make an big event happen. You know what I mean? Nothing that they've said has ever slowed us down on the fact that we respect the fact that they are good fighters, right? And they beat even Lomachenko, you know what I mean? Maybe being a all-time great fighter, right? But there's just something that's just a little bit more special about Devin, and that's what our team believes. That's what I believe, and that's just the way we approach every day in the Devin Haney business.
If Teofimo Lopez vacate his IBF belt to Composers, does that make Composers an email champion according to his logic about Devin?
Just like I say, the whole email business, that was started on the Teofimo team because they wanted to use different ways in which to duck. Then the latest one was the fact that they have to have this IBF fight. That we have to do this IBF fight. This shit is about whatever that it's about, right? When if you don't have to do the IBF fight with Kambosos, well, then why didn't you do the Devin Haney fight in the first place? You know what I mean? And if belts and all the shit didn't mean nothing, then why aren't you fighting? Why aren't you fighting Devin? Right? So Devin is the youngest of the group. He's 22, right? So you know what I mean. We feel like time is on our side, and we just continue to work.
Yeah, and someone asked Brother Bill, if Tio vacates the IBF belt, will Devin Haney fight for it against, I'm assuming, Composers?
We would gladly fight Kambosos. I try to stay consistent and honor the position that JoJo Diaz has worked for. You know what I mean? But of course, if he doesn't do what he's supposed to do in the window that the WBC that requires the WBC, right? And he doesn't want to make the fight happen, then we'll explore options. And an IBF belt, vacant, or an IBF belt that a champion has around his waist. There's always something that Devin has been interested in, is unifying the division.
What's your take on Gervonta Tank Davis' last performance versus Mario Barrios? I haven't spoke to you since then. So were you impressed by Gervonta Tank Davis, knocking out Barrios the way he did? Or stopping?
No. That's what Tank does. Tank is a hell of a talent. You know what I mean? A good fighter, right? Who's going to come and going to tear shit up. That's what he comes in there to do, and he doesn't mind going through destruction and devastation to do it, right? We know that Mario Barrios was going to be there for him. Devin has spent time with Mario. Of course, we have a lot of respect for Virgil Hunter, and Cutman Don over there in Oakland, California, Hayward. Got a lot of respect for them as a team and what they've, accomplished and what they set out to do with Barrios. But we knew that it was going to be an insurmountable task that he was going to be facing with Tank Davis. we know that stylistically, everyone that Tank has fought, right, that we match up great as well. You know, when you talk about winning the fight, well, both fighters win in different ways, but there's no one on Tank's resume that we look at and say that, well, this was a win that would be a hard one for us. You know what I mean? Or it would be something that would be a task that's similar to what Barrios was facing going up against Tank. But outside of that, I think the backflip off the top rope was super impressive.
Right. Yeah, I didn't know he could do that. Now, do you think Floyd was the ultimate factor for Tank to secure the knockout that night? Do you think he was the ultimate motivation, or do you think Tank would have got the knockout anyway, or do you think he would have got the knockout anyway?
You never can count out Floyd and what you know, he's a winner. Floyd is a winner. That I know about him, right? And what he'll do to be great, and whatever that he sets his mind to do, you can expect Floyd to be. And to see what he's doing as a promoter and maybe even a co-trainer, I don't know, you know, because he was in that corner and he was definitely said some things that motivated and sparked Tank up. And that, you know, he came out and stopped the kid, you know, and you can't take that away from him. You know, he was working harder than I've ever anticipated him working when he, you know, going from being a fighter to just being a promoter, right? And for us as a team, we would never want to go against someone and they have a guy that's just all over the ring. He's able to go to the table and talk to the announcers. He's able to come over to the corner. He's able to, you know, go in the audience. You know what I mean? He's able to look on the, you know what I mean? It's just, Floyd has a lot of power. And, you know, when you're with him, you're happy about it. But, you know, when you go against him, you know, it's something that you got to be prepared for, you know, and we don't pull no punches about that. We know that Gervonta Davis is his star fighter, right? We know what he does to get Gervonta ready, you know what I mean? But when anytime we deal with Tank or anything about Tank, you know what I mean, we deal with it eye level. We deal with it with the fact that knowing that, you know, one day we might go against him, you know, and you know, I want to have it as an even level playing field as possible for Dev. So I watch everything, just like you would expect you to with your daughter as well. You know what I mean? I watch and pay attention to everything. You know what I mean? And I want Devin to have an equal playing field, or as much of an equal playing field with whoever he goes in there with.
Yeah, Floyd definitely got that TBE pass. But what's your take on Floyd stating that Tank is only going to fight in-house fights with PBC?
Well, I mean, he signed to him, so he can do whatever that he want to do. He can say whatever that he wants to say. You know what I mean? That's fine. But when you talk about making an event, a big event happen, right? You can't piss on the people's head and tell them that it's raining, that they would actually buy a more expensive outfit to go watch Tank and Barrios than Devin and Tank. You know, that they're going to get a bigger hotel suite. They're going to, you know what I mean, rent a nicer car. They're going to bring more tourism to any city that the fight is scheduled, right? So, you know what I mean? We just continue to, you know, keep our nose down to the ground and continue to work, because ultimately the biggest and the best compliment is sharing an event with a hell of a team like the Mayweather team, you know, Golden Boy, Matchroom, you know, PBC, you know what I mean? All these are great companies that have been around forever, you know, so we take it all in stride, man. You know what I mean? We know fighters talk, promoters talk, but at the end of the day, the people are the ones that pay the bills. So, you know, who do we got to answer to? The talking promoters or the talking fighters? No, we got to answer to the people. You know what I mean? And that's why we spend so much time, you know, on social media, on YouTube, you know, on platforms like yours, because of the diversity and the different crowds and boxing fans. they're owed just as much of it as anyone else. You know what I mean? The ESPN crowd, that's a cool crowd. That's Mike Carpenter's crowd. That's fine, and he services that audience. But it's so many other different audiences that on YouTube that, you know what I mean, we like to get the message out to as well, that we don't take for granted.
Yeah. Do you think Floyd Mayweather sincerely meant that though? Do you think he really meant that when he said it, or he was just saying it to be saying it?
I mean, you got to listen to what people say, what they don't say, and what they never will say. I mean, he said it. He said it, and you know what I mean? You have to take him on his word. You know, he's not in the business of him having to say things that's not on his mind. He's definitely rich where he can express himself, and that's what he says. But when you talk about, once again, that's how he feels. But once again, when you talk about what the people will pay for and what they're demanding, you know what I mean? That supersedes anything that the fighter or the promoter wants to negotiate or make happen.
Yeah, but how serious is Floyd making that statement? Because they went right back talking about Ryan Garcia and making that fight, and obviously Ryan is not with the PBC, and that was a fight they tried to make before the Barrios fight and afterwards. So that's why I was asking that question. Do you think, you know, it just depends on the fight or what?
Well, it depends on the fans. You know what I'm saying? Like certain fighters' fans don't let up that easy. You know what I'm saying? They don't let up that easy. And Devin has a group of hardcore fans that ride with him. You know what I'm saying? And they're riding in that fight. You got Tank, who has some hardcore fans that ride for him. You know what I'm saying? And you know, it's just like with Biggie. It's just like with Biggie and Tupac. You never wanted to see them go at each other. You know what I mean? But ultimately they sparked a whole generation, right, of controversy, of talk. You know what I mean? And although it ended negative, right? One thing that it did, it created talk and dialogue about who was the best and why were they the best, and you know what I mean, stuff like that. With Devin, it has the makings of being a Zab Judah, Floyd Mayweather kind of fight, where you bring together two audiences that, you know, both Tank and Devin share the same fan base. Although Tank, you would say he's 26 and older than Devin as well. He has 4 more years as a pro. He has a bigger fan base. More people know him and resonate with Devin, but Devin will have a different fan base that he also brings. You know, and it just sets up for something that's very, very historic, you know. And I don't think that anyone can get in the way of it, other than just Devin and Tank eventually later on. But I don't want to concentrate on what Tank is doing, because Floyd said that that's what they're doing right now. What Devin is doing is what Devin is doing, right? And he's defending a world title. He's defending a world belt. He's dealing with mandatory situations. Now, is there anyone that can demand to get Tank in the ring, right? You know what I mean? Is Floyd going to put Tank in a position where someone can demand to get in the ring with him? And if you believe in your skills, if you believe in his skills, then you do what Floyd didn't been able to do, right? You know, you make yourself available for the biggest and the best fights to happen. And I'm sure that Tank has those kind of aspirations and those kind of dreams. So I won't short him of his full grams in saying that he won't eventually demand them to fight Dev, and Dev do the same as demand to fight Tank. But until then, you know what I mean? You know, we got JoJo Diaz up.
Right. So speaking of that, you know, I just based off your last couple of comments, when Floyd, or when do you think is going to be the Tank gonna feel like it's the green light on Devin to make that fight? if that's if you know when the magnitude gonna be right when according to them or in their view, in your opinion.
Well, I'm sure that Tank hears the same thing, that he hears people say, okay, yeah, he was good, but what you think about Devin? And then Tank, you know, says his traditional, you know, that little nigga ain't shit, or that little nigga, you know what I'm saying? Like sooner or later, right, that will get to Tank as well. You know what I'm saying? When you say, you know, bummy, or he ain't got no money, or you know what I mean? Then who you saying that to? Because everybody know that ain't true. Everybody know that. So you know what I mean? I think when he answers to himself and when he starts answering to his fans, right, then you know we're more closer to making it happen.
Devin Haney is a free agent, so he is available to fight anybody. Teofimo, Javante, Ryan, I mean, you name it, right? So Javante announced that he will be returning in October. If JoJo does not take the fight, we hope he will. We pray he will. I think he will. But if he don't, is that fight you guys interested in? You know, what I mean, if Floyd say, okay, well let's make it happen. You know, is that fight you guys interested in like October, November, December, later for this year?
Well, it's one thing that's the wrong word to use, and us is to use in free. It's a guy, that's my homeboy up the way, E40. He says, I don't freestyle, man. It's pay style on mine because I love money, man. Right? So when you talk about being a free agent, right? They said that Devin's not a free agent. Devin is a promoter that promotes himself and promotes under other talented, super talented fighters like Amari Jones, that's 2-0. Darren Cunningham, who's making his 13th fight down there in Atlanta on August the 14th. Him and Lorenzo Trunk Simpson being the main event, and Darren the Gift Cunningham being the co-main down there. You know what I mean? Fighting and clawing and doing what they supposed to do as young fighters, bringing awareness to themselves and their brain. Hell of a job. You got Darren down there. You got Amari who's fighting, and then you also got Shamar Canal, 1-0. That's part of the DHP stable. You know, operated and owned and executed by Devin Haney himself, the 22-year-old youngest world champion in boxing. You know, so when you have these kind of things that's happening, you know, you don't even pay attention to the other shit. You know, you just keep your nose down and you work, brother.
So Devin Haney is not a free agent. Devin Haney is a boss.
Absolutely, man. You know what I mean? Right. Absolutely. So, he's never been a free agent, because when he started in Mexico, he started with Devin Haney Promotions. He was at Showtime, Showbox with Devin Haney Promotions. He's been at Matchroom with Devin Haney Promotions. He's been a boss since the beginning. He's never been a free agent. He started his company and he's been signed to himself since the very beginning, period. And he's able to negotiate. Now, when you talk about the big four that we respect and we love so dearly for keeping this boxing game lit, whether it be Top Rank, Golden Boy, Matchroom, you know, PBC, you know, who's kept this boxing thing lit. Then you talk about a lot of other promoters that you have in boxing, the Lou DeBellas of the world, you know. You have the Tom Browns of the world, you know. We know that there's levels to it, and you know, we knew that in time that we must continue work and gain our respect as promoters, as having a viable promotional company. Devin is 26-0, you know what I mean, and by all intent purposes, you know, like I said, he's promoted by the youngest promoter in boxing himself, you know, and he's paying taxes on millions. So that'll show that we've been successful in our approach as well. But we did it. We've also showcased it. You know, did as much informant as possible so that it can be another young guy to come right behind him and to do the same thing. The other father and son duo, so to speak. So when, you know, that term free agent, meaning that we were up for sale, we were never up for sale. We was only up to negotiate.
Right. Well, pardon me. So, Devin Haney, as a boss, as a promoter, he's ready to make any fight, including a fight with Gervonta, now or later, whenever Floyd green light the fight. Is that a fair thing to make?
Oh, absolutely. And I told Eddie that, you know what I mean, I appreciated the way that he carefully articulated and explained it as Devin being able to make the fights that the people wanted, right? Because a fight of financial, a fight that's financially beneficial to him is, and both Eddie and both DAZN are fights that thrive and drive their networks. So in order to give Devin the liberty and the privilege of being able to solicit himself to other networks, to other companies to make deals happen, right? Kills that narrative that Devin is food. Kills that narrative that, oh, we couldn't make a fight happen. No, you didn't want to make the fight happen. And this is our way of definitely letting the public know, you know what I mean, what we're dealing with and what we're working with. But I think that we've done it. We've done a great job on DAZN, bringing awareness and bringing eyeballs to them, a diverse audience that's different to what they've been marketing towards, and that's what we wanted to do. But we did that as a promotional house. We didn't do it just as a fighter. We did it as a collective. We knew what we had to do, and I think that we accomplished some of our smaller goals in both 2019 and 20 with DAZN and Metro.
Well, being the youngest promoter and the youngest paid athlete is a hell of an achievement, to say the least, for any fighter. But Bill, the last segment is questions that the fans want to get your take on as far as predictions, if you don't mind. But let me go ahead and get these last two super chats out of the way. What do you think about the Bill Haney Norris fight during the press conference? Yeah, I don't know about all that, my brother. But Manny Pacquiao versus Errol Spence. The fight is going down in less than a month. What's your thoughts on that fight and your prediction?
I think that's a great fight for the fans. I know that we definitely the winners in that sense of getting a chance to see Earl continue on to his great legacy of being the pay-per-view exception that he's been. Ever since he started that pay-per-view quest, he's been nothing but a pay-per-view fighter and a big draw, down there in that Texas. So shout out to him and everything that he's doing. Manny Pacquiao being the legend that he is, giving Earl that opportunity to continue to be great. Shout out to both of those guys, man. And I'm looking forward to be a hell of a fight. I was at the fight between Pacquiao and Broner, and I didn't expect a strong and fast Pacquiao that I saw. I didn't expect athletic Pacquiao. I was expecting to see an older, slow down Pacquiao, and I just didn't see it. So, I think that it's going to be a heck of a fight, and I expect Earl to stop him.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Also, another fight that's being ordered, another fighter that's in JoJo position, Sean Porter. He's Terrence Crawford mandatory. WBO have now ordered the fight. What's your thoughts on that fight if it does go down? How do you see that fight playing out?
Well, I heard that Sean said that he was surprised, right?
Right,
About
yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, he said he was surprised, that they ordered the fight.
That's because he's been on that damn podcast for too long. You know what I'm saying? Talking about he didn't see it coming. Yeah, you was on the podcast. That's why you didn't see it coming. But nevertheless, you know what I'm saying? You got instantly you talk about fights where you're talking about it and you're discussing them, and then you get a phone call, you get a knock, and you say, "Who is that?" He says, Terrence who? Terrence Crawford. Nigga, I'm outside knocking at your door. What you gonna do, right? So is he going to now do everything in his power to get Terrence in there? Use his platform, use everything in his power to then get to fight with Terrence. You know what I'm saying? Because that will do wonders for his career. He beats Terrence Crawford. You know what I'm saying? So when you're in those kind of positions, those are the positions that you dream about, whether they be at the beginning of your career, you know what I mean, at the apex of your career, or at the downward part of your career. Meaning they all are. Those are the kind of fights that lift you up in a way that his dad has worked, you know, forever, you know, with getting Sean to the position that he's in. You know, Sean, I've seen Sean, he works. He's a workaholic too. And I wish them both well in that fight. You know what I mean? And if they can get the fight, you know what I mean? I don't think that it's never been no bitch in them. You know what I'm saying? And that's been shown the opponents that they've had. So I don't expect them to bitch out, but I also know that Terrence Crawford is a dog. Ain't no bitch in him either, though. You know what I'm saying? So it's if and when it happens, it'll be a fight that the fans are also going to be winners of.
Yeah, well, one thing, Sean Porter did not petition to fight Crawford. Actually, the WBO ordered the fight, which that's why he was surprised. Even though you would expect that he would have forced the fight on his end. But he is getting a 60-40 split, though. That's not usual for a mandatory to get that big of a split. So you don't see him backing out for any reason, right? Because he is getting a champion treatment with that split, right?
Well, not only just that, it's just that's an opportunity to be great. You know what I mean? And I know from seeing them working, you know what I mean, that's, you know, the money I'm sure is going to be in. It's going to be cool. I've never heard about them getting underpaid. You know what I'm saying, or anything like that. I'm pretty sure that that Kenny is on top of the business in terms of that. It's going to be a financially beneficial fight, right? But that opportunity to do that doesn't come around, you know, like that, to whereas you can then go from, you know, and you know what? Come to find out, I think that he did it with Adrian Broner, didn't he? That was a great opportunity, and he beat Adrian Broner to really, you know what I mean, catapult his career.
Oh yeah, this is big. It's a big opportunity though. Terrence Crawford, pound for pound, number one, and all.
But I think he's like I said, whether the beginning or at the apex or on the downslope. You know, those fights come at those kind of times where they can catapult your career in a way that you need it to. And I think that this is a time where Sean Porter can use a big win against Terrence Crawford to, you know, put him in boxing heaven.
So you favoring Sean?
No, I didn't say that. I just said a win against Terrence Crawford could get him that. I don't.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a prediction out of you. That's all.
Yeah, well, with the athleticism and everything that Terrence brings to the game, and with the doggy dog work ethic and approach that the Porters bring, I'm still more inclined to give Crawford and the boxer the edge, because I favor the boxer puncher than the puncher boxer.
That's right. Now, another fight is what's your prediction on Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury trilogy? Obviously, the fight was supposed to take place, I believe, yesterday. Yeah, it was supposed to take place yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. So, what's your thoughts on that trilogy? The fight has been postponed to October 9th.
It's bad for my personal prediction, because going into it, and it's so unfair that you talk about the timing of it. The timing was on both each other's side that first fight. You know, that's why you kind of, you know, you got that draw, right? You got the draw. The second fight, I saw Tyson dig down, and he wasn't out on the social media set as so much as like he has been as of late, right? I was really under the belief that if the fight had happened on the date that it happened, it was going to be a lot easier for Wilder, just because of the antics and just because of what Tyson was going through. Now that the fight has been pushed back and Wilder had been training, it would make me curious to know now what Tyson Fury is going to do. And without that knowing, I give him a slider. I give the edge to Wilder because I saw the preparation. But I now, with the fight going out and Wilder now having to curb his preparation in the sense of, you know, you getting ready for the fight, and then now the fight is not happening, and we were going to catch Fury off guard, so to speak, because he didn't think that he was going to fight Wilder. Now, this allows Fury to have more preparation into it. But I still give Wilder a slight more edge in the hunger department. So I'd go with Wilder as of now.
Yeah, but do you think that gives Wilder more confidence seeing Tyson Fury continuously pulling out of the trilogy for like almost 2 years now? Tyson Fury have been pulling out.
He doesn't need any more confidence in terms of pulling out. You know, he hadn't pulled out enough for the confidence. Now it becomes confident in your preparation, right?
Okay.
And so he had confidence in his preparation, and he had confidence the fact that he didn't want to fight. So now Tyson Fury is forced to fight. And, you know, a scared man is a dangerous man, right? Tyson Fury was scared as shit the first fight. The second fight, even more scared, right? But he developed a confidence in that second fight, and he started partying. He started doing things, started saying things. He started doing things, right? Started trying to get out of going back in there again in that war. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, a fight with Deontay Wilder, you know what I mean? Even win, lose, or draw is mentally draining, right? The preparation to get in there with, you know, one of the baddest men on the planet, right? A person with that kind of power, even described by Tyson Fury himself. That kind of mental preparation can weigh on you. You know what I mean? And it can weigh on you in a way that publicly, you know, outwardly, you know, no one can see. But, you know, you can see with what Ryan Garcia was going through, right? Being put in a position where now, okay, you're in that big fight. It's not the fight that's the development fight. You're now being put in that fight that you've had several times on that big stage with Devin. There's several times that you've said now, okay, you know, one day we're gonna meet up in the pros, and it's gonna be for all the marbles, and it's gonna be in front of everybody, right? Those positions are easy to get put in, but actually performing and dealing with them, you know, then becomes something totally different.
Yeah, and the controversy leading up to the trilogy is making the fight bigger, so there's more stakes on the table, you know. So what's your take and your reaction when Tyson Fury tested positive for COVID, and a few days later he was caught at bars drinking and at the casinos? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, no different than even with Teofimo. You know, you want to give the person their just you know, respect in terms of, you know, who would say that they have COVID. You know what I mean? Who would say that? You know, but Tyson has been known to, you know, tell not been 100% truthful. You know what I mean? To been been known to do things that were less than credible, So if if he had COVID, or if he didn't have COVID, and soon as soon as you quote unquote have healed or surpassed or have tested negative, to be then out again, just partying, right, and not doing anything necessarily for the community or faith-based or anything like that. You're just doing it, right? You're running a chance of getting it twice, right? Once again, because you've seen people now with vaccines who are catching the COVID again. So you run a chance of getting it again, right? And also you run a chance of giving it to somebody, right? Because you've gotten a false test, a false negative test. So I just think that, the fighters that are getting the money that they're getting the fame that they're getting, should also have a responsibility to show the maturity that champions should show. You know what I mean? Businessmen should show, successful athletes should show, and sometimes it's not always doing what you want to do, but doing what's the responsible thing.
And last but not least, Jermell Charlo versus Castano, they had a war a week ago. And now, obviously, there's talks of the rematch. Maybe the mandatories will come in the way. But what's your thoughts on that rematch, and what can Jermell do and adjust to make the fight easy on himself? And what was your thoughts on Castano's performance?
I didn't get a chance to see the fight, but I'm more so surprised the fact that if it was for undisputed and the belts take precedence, then how could you then force mandatories, and those are the guys who are the champions fighting each other? So I'm more interested in seeing what the outcome of it is. Haven't saw the fight, but from just a business standpoint and just watching the belts and stuff like that, I'm interested if they're going to order another fight. Then if they do, then I'm going to have to catch up, watch the first one, then watch the second one. You know what I mean? Or if they have have to deal with their mandatories or whatever, and then I'll catch the fight that everybody said that was the fight that I should have watched. I'll end up watching it.
Yeah, that was definitely a great fight to watch. You got to really catch up with that build. The last question I have for you from the super chat is, can Devin please G-check those announcers from the zone? I think he's referring to Chris Mannix and some of the other ones too.
Well, the thing about it is, to be great, you must go through adversity. You saw the infamous times where Muhammad Ali, had to refute everything that no other than Howard Cosell was saying. You had times that Floyd and Larry Merchant, you know what I mean? You got, Bernard and Jim Lampley, and I think Larry as well. You had Bernard and everybody, you know what I mean? So, to be great, you must overcome and go through some things. And these things are the wonderful part of the process that we got to go through. We got a chance to watch them. I know Andre Ward said the other day about Shakur and Devin that he was happy to see him go through these kind of things, because it'll toughen their skin up, and it'll shows that he had to go through it. Floyd had to go through it, right? And Bernard had to go through it. So it's all part of the game, and I just love to see Devin deal and adjust to it, and you know what I mean, and man up.
Now I want your honest opinion on this. So you mentioned the guys, the Ali, the Floyd, all of them had the Larry, Merchant, so on and so forth. They had their dancing partners, right? So where is Canelo Alvarez's dancing partner, like from the zone? Like, where's the criticism that they give Devin? How come that's not given to Canelo? Where is Larry Merchant for Canelo Alvarez today? Gennady Golovkin too, and those other fighters. What's your thoughts on that? How come it's only toward Devin Haney and those fighters alike, but not the other fighters on the zone?
Because if you want payday, you got to get that payday. You don't say nothing to Canelo Alvarez, who is at this point in time, you know what I mean, for all intent purposes, boxing. The boxing as the way that we see it. He's Mr. Untouchable. You know what I mean? We can't do anything about it. We respect it. You know what I mean? And you know, thank God we're not in the same weight division.
Yeah, I know. But Floyd had bigger paydays, right? And the criticism came even more. And I will expect when Devin Haney makes it to that level, he will get it even worse. So how come Floyd Mayweather, even though he was bringing the paydays, in fact, he broke all type of records, but you know, he got all type of criticism. But on the other hand, you see other fighters don't.
Well, Floyd is the difference in the sense of the payday didn't just come to the fighter. The payday comes to the reporters that create the narratives that Canelo shouldn't fight this fighter, Floyd, he shouldn't fight this other fighter. You know what I mean? Things of that nature. Floyd was the cash cow in the sense of every fight that he fought, the fighter, the other fighter, they wanted that fight because it was a payday, right? I don't think that the fights, the Canelo fight, the Canelo fighters are getting the paydays that the Floyd's opponents was getting back then. And for this to happen, it has to be a narrative created by more than just the Canelo camp. You have to have some support from your network, some support from the announcers, some support from, you know, of course, the fans in your team, and he has all of it. You know what I mean? Rightfully so. So you don't want to say, okay, well, the announcers shouldn't be riding with him, but the fans are riding with him. You got the fighters riding with him. You got the whole thing. So, you know, shout out to Canelo and what he's doing. You know, because who wouldn't want to be in that position? We all disagree with it, right? But you would want to be in that position that a Floyd Mayweather done been in, that a Canelo Alvarez done been in, right? Who else has been in that position of power? Those two stand out more so than anyone of mine, because even growing up watching who Ray Leonard had to fight and what he had to do, I don't think he had as much power as Floyd or Canelo.
Right. And last super chat, everyone. Bill, if everyone ducks as usual, Comey is talking on Twitter.
You know, Richard Comey is a good fighter as well. You know what I'm saying? And he's definitely in the possibilities. You know, he's speaking now, but you know, before Devin became a world champion, he wasn't doing any speaking. You know, he wasn't talking about it. But we respect him, respect all the fighters in the lightweight division, and you know, if that fight is can happen, you know what I mean, it will be a great fight as well.
Yes, sir. Well, great talking with you, Bill. You always keep it 100, and of course, this is Split Decision episode 100. I had to get you on the show on this pretty much anniversary on Split Decision. So great talking with you, like always, Bill.
Absolutely, King. I appreciate it, man, and shout out to everybody, man, in the chat. You know, shout out to everybody that'll get a chance to listen to me and you kick this truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. You know, but more importantly, everybody, you know, take care of your family. You know, give your family and your loved ones hugs and kisses. You know what I mean? Life is really short. You know what I mean? And do something you love and something that you know that's not just easy. You know, don't take the easy ride. Do it because you love it. Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you, Bill. Thank you so much, man.
All right, cool.
That was Bill Haney, the CEO, the father, the trainer of Devin Haney. He gave y'all his thoughts on the JoJo Diaz fight. Hopefully that fight comes to fruition. I don't see why not. Like I pointed out on the show, Devin Haney, his last fight, I think he was paid 10 times what JoJo was paid. So this fight is a no-brainer for JoJo. JoJo earned his right to fight Devin Haney next by becoming the mandatory, beating Javier Fortuna. So, it's only right for him to fight Devin Haney next and make all the money in the world. His biggest payday till this day. And like I said, to put icing on the cake, Devin Haney is also champion. So there is no reason whatsoever for JoJo Diaz to go a different route and fight Ryan Garcia, who doesn't have a title, who's coming off anxiety. And also, you're really not going to get your biggest payday fighting Ryan. Ryan has a lot of social media followers, but like Oscar De La Hoya said, that haven't translated to actual fans that's tuning in to watch the fights. So with that being said, I do want to point it out how old media is so unprofessional, calling JoJo Diaz, such as Michael Coppinger, telling JoJo Diaz, hey, I would like you to fight Ryan Garcia. Sources say he's trying to fight you, so on and so forth, and gets a couple quotes from JoJo in order to write an article on ESPN. Then come to find out, JoJo says Ryan Garcia is the B word. He ain't trying to fight. He over here trying to fight Pacquiao, pretty much clowning Ryan Garcia. So if, according to the fighter himself, JoJo, he haven't heard anything from Ryan Garcia, what is Michael Coppinger talking about? But this is the agenda they pushing, is complete blacklist the fighters on the coincidental list. That's the agenda. That's the plan. You see Chris Mannix commentating during the Javier Fortuna versus JoJo Diaz fight. He completely ignored Devin Haney when they fighting for Devin Haney mandatory position to become his mandatory to fight him next within 90 days. Chris Mannix and Tom Grisham, they completely ignored Devin Haney. They said that they want to see JoJo Diaz fight Ryan Garcia. They kept talking about that throughout the whole night. And to make matter worse, they even lied on Devin Haney's name, claiming that Devin Haney avoided Javier Fortuna, when it's a fact that Javier Fortuna turned down a fight with Devin Haney on 3 different occasions, when he was a mandatory and before he was a mandatory. So Javier Fortuna own manager, I believe, Samson, already came out and admitted that Javier Fortuna turned down a Devin Haney fight on 3 different occasions, and they straight up lied on Devin Haney's name, a fighter that actually fights on the zone, for a fighter that don't even fight on the zone, right? So you see Michael Coppinger, you see the agenda he pushing. Like I said, it's complete blacklist certain fighters from getting the meaningful fights that the fans want to see. And then this Michael Coppinger was the same guy. Just to give you an example, compare two different situations, how they treat 2 different fighters from the coincidental list and the hope list. When Canelo Alvarez was fighting Avni Yildirim, a fighter coming off a loss, Michael Coppinger, when he reported the news of Canelo Alvarez fighting, what's his name? I think his name was Avni Yildirim. I think I pronounced his name correctly. Michael Coppinger never criticized Canelo. He never pointed out the fact that Avni Yildirim was coming off a loss. He never pointed out the fact that Canelo requested to fight Avni Yildirim. And he ignored that Canelo Alvarez lost his contract, $365 million, for choosing to fight Avni Yildirim because the zone rejected the fight on more than one occasion. They said, we're not paying you $33 million to fight Avni Yildirim. And they ended up actually going to a lawsuit, and Canelo lost his contract. Now he's making less money today because of that, right? So when Michael Coppinger reported the news of Canelo fighting Avni Yildirim, he completely ignored all of the above. But when Devin Haney announced that he fighting Javier Fortuna, when Devin Haney announced that he was fighting Jorge Linares, it was Michael Coppinger who reported that Jorge Linares lost to Lomachenko and he lost to this guy. So, and he completely trying to discredit Devin Haney already, making excuses if Linares wins. Like, oh, he already lost to this fighter. He lost to that fighter. They already making excuses ahead of time to when Devin Haney wins. But they didn't do that with Canelo Alvarez, who was actually fighting a fighter coming off a loss. But when Devin Haney fought a fighter that's coming off a knockout win, Jorge Linares, who Ryan Garcia is ducking, or was avoiding at the time and avoided the fight on more than one occasion. They didn't point out none of them facts. They tried to discredit Devin Haney by pointing out Jorge Linares' shortcomings. But when it came to Avni Yildirim, they didn't point out any shortcomings at all. But they couldn't but on the other hand, to make matter worse, they couldn't point out any victories he had anyway. So that's just to show you a side-by-side comparisons of how they treat two different fighters, from the coincidentalist and the hopeless. And Michael Coppinger, he continued to push his agenda, his narrative. And JoJo, though, he made the public know that Ryan Garcia ain't trying to fight him. Ryan Garcia don't want the fight. He's the B word. That's what JoJo said. Remember, JoJo said he had nothing but high praise for Ryan Garcia leading up to the Javier Fortuna fight. So you could tell JoJo Diaz is disappointed in Ryan Garcia, but the old media continues to try to get their favorite fighters to duck the fighters they hate. But at the end of the day, JoJo Diaz, he already positioned himself to fight Devin Haney next, so he has nowhere to go but fight Devin Haney. So let me go ahead and open up the phone lines. I'll be right back. Just give me a second or two to open up the phone lines. Hello, how you doing, IQ? Who this is and where you calling from?
Steve, successful.
Yeah, hello.
Yes,
Yeah, can you hear me clearly, or am I breaking up?
that's the love.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, yeah. I guess I think my service is cutting up a little bit right now. Hold on. Let me try to readjust it.
You're either breaking up or you're really low right now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I hear you a little bit better right now. So can you hear me clearly? Clearly?
How much?
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you good now. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, that's good. All right. Well, so let's go ahead and dive into certain topics that the fans been talking about heavy, which is the WBO ordering the Terrence Crawford versus Sean Porter fight. Now, do you think Terrence Crawford is going to vacate his belt like Canelo Alvarez did, or is Terrence Crawford going to accept the tough mandatory in Sean Porter?
Um, I never heard of a pound number one, vacating his belt to fight the best of his division. So, but no, I don't.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, you breaking up a little bit. Oh, yeah, Joey, can you talk for a little bit? I'm trying to gauge how bad is you breaking up. I'm trying to see if I need to reboot my system real quick.
Yeah, okay, but no, I don't think Terrence Crawford's going to vacate his title. It's like you said already. He's been trying to get one of these big fights for years. He was trying to go after the Pacquiao fight. That fight couldn't get made, and now he has the opportunity to get the fight with Sean Porter. And based off of his response after the WBO ordering this fight, his game doesn't sound vacating at all. After all, that comment he made pretty much proves that he's more than interested in wanting to fight Sean Porter. Um, I saw Sean Porter's response, but I didn't understand why he deleted it. But I'm gonna give Sean Porter the benefit of hope, and I think he wants to make this fight too. Like I said, it makes absolutely no sense why he wouldn't take this fight. He's gonna make a lot more money fighting at Terrence Crawford than he would fighting at Jamal James. So, and it's not as if Errol Spence is like a potential fight. It doesn't look like it. So why not fight a champ? Good payday. Yeah, Sean Porter's in the position where he has nothing to lose. So that's the obvious fight to make. Terrence Crawford wants to make it happen. So let's see it.
Right. That's obviously the fight to make because that's a big fight. And Sean Porter, he did tweet that I was surprised. I think he said, I'm surprised that they actually ordered the fight. What's your thoughts on that? Like, why was he surprised?
Well, I mean, it's like I said. I didn't think Sean Porter ordered this fight. I didn't think it requested WBO because that was what was announced. It was never announced when sends a request to a sanctioning bout, though that's usually public knowledge. But that wasn't Sean Porter, so I imagine that the WBO took it for themselves. Sean Porter was more surprised because he lost his top position as a contender
Yeah.
from Virgil.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
so I imagine that Sean Porter had no clue that he was going to order Terrence Crawford next.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Joey, let me call let me call you right back. I think it's breaking up on my end, not your end. So let me call you right back. All right.
All right.
Yeah. So I rebooted the system. Everything should be back normally. So let me go ahead and Joey, hello, how you doing?
I'm good. Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, I hear you much better now. So I was asking you, I left you with, um, do you think? I think. Oh no, it wasn't the Canelo joint. It was Porter. He reacted to the news with, I was surprised that they actually ordered a fight or something like that. He deleted a tweet afterwards. So why was he surprised, in your opinion, that the WBO ordered a fight if he was the mandatory?
Probably one because he lost his top spot to Virgil Ortiz, and two, he was never the one who ordered this fight. He didn't send in a request. The WBO did this personally, and as we saw from previous interviews, it looked as if Sean Porter had moved on from fighting Terrence Crawford and was looking to seek other opponents such as Jamal James for the WBO regular title. So I don't think he had any idea of facing Terrence Crawford next, at least based off of his reaction.
Yeah, and why didn't Sean, in your opinion, call the WBO to question why he lost his mandatory if he lost it to begin with? Because apparently he never lost his mandatory position. But if he was under the impression that he actually lost his mandatory position because he was dropped from the rankings to number 2 from number 1 and was replaced by Virgil Ortiz, how come he didn't take it upon himself to call the WBO to question why he lost his mandatory position if that was the case?
I don't know. Like, the thing is, Sean Porter, what he's been saying, his actions haven't been matching his words. Because from the way Sean Porter's been talking for these past few months, everybody's under the assumption that Sean Porter really wants to get this Terrence Crawford fight. But he's said everything right, but he hasn't done everything right. He didn't activate his mandatory position. And when he lost it, he didn't call the WBO. He went on his podcast and discussed it and was that he was surprised that he lost his position, but but at the same time he didn't talk about how he went there to discuss with the WBO as to why he lost that. So I was really surprised. It sounded when it comes to Terrence Crawford, he doesn't go into a lot of detail about this. He says all the right things, but he doesn't do any action. So it's like I don't know. It doesn't sound like Sean Porter really wanted this fight as much as he tells the public he did.
Well, previously, before the WBO ordered the fight, Sean Porter revealed that his father, or I think Bob Arum revealed that that Sean Porter, father Kenny Porter, he actually went to Bob Arum office and he talked to him about the possibility to fight Terrence Crawford next. And obviously, Bob Arum threw a $1 million offer, which was a lowball offer. Sean Porter responded right away with $1 million. That's an insult. Sean Porter even took it further and he said $2 million is an insult. He said $2 million is an insult to begin negotiations. So since that's the case, wouldn't you think if Sean Porter actually want the fight, since they already ordered a fight, this fight is going to actually go to purse bid based upon his previous comments? Because if $2 million is an insult plus pay-per-view, that don't sound like Bob Arum is going to offer him anything more than that, especially when he's not a champion and he lost to Errol Spence, Keith, and Kell Brook. So do you see this fight going to purse bid, especially when the WBO have raised his percentage from the purse split from 20 to 40%? They said Porter was always going to get a 40% because he's not your average mandatory. He has a lot of credentials. So due to his credentials, the WBO they made it clear that Sean Porter is getting a 40% if the fight does go to purse bid. So what's your thoughts on that? Do you see Sean Porter taking this fight to purse bid due to that?
I mean, it would be foolish for him not to, or it wouldn't make any sense for him not to do it based off of the way he was reacting to the offers that he was getting from Bob Arum. But the offers then were low, Bob Arum doesn't sound like he's willing to offer Sean Porter any more or any PBC fighter except for Spence and Pacquiao. So I don't think it makes sense for Sean Porter not to go to first bid. After all, he's most likely going to get offered more money from other companies where he can not have to worry about just getting a mere $1 or $2 million, which he claims isn't enough. So I don't know why he wouldn't go to first bid. I expect him to go to first bid. As a fan, it doesn't do anything for me, but in the position of the boxers, I understand it makes more sense for Sean Porter to go to first bid than to negotiate with Bob Arum. Because, as you said, it doesn't sound like Bob Arum wants to go any higher than 1 or let alone 2 million.
And obviously, if like I said before, Sean Porter didn't like the Bob Arum offer, he could have took it from day one. From day one, he could have took this to first bid by utilizing his mandatory position. But there's a lot of Terrence Crawford detractors on my videos. They keep saying Sean Porter have been calling out Terrence Crawford for years, and Terrence is the one that's been avoiding Sean Porter. But now we see it playing out differently. We see Sean Porter not being so positive about the fight. We don't know if he's getting cold feet or not. I think he's going to take the fight because, he backed up to a corner. Well, he at least backed himself up to a corner. So I don't see why the fight's not going to happen for his biggest opportunity so far and the biggest payday against pound for pound number one. But for the people the detractors, the Terrence Crawford's detractors that continue to say Sean Porter have been calling out Crawford for years. Wasn't Ryan calling out Tank for years? Nobody said, "Oh, yeah. Tank is avoiding Ryan because Ryan been calling them out for years." Because when it came down to it, we saw Ryan pulled anxiety. Even Teofimo Lopez, when he beat Lomachenko, he said, "I'm gonna fight Devin Haney next." And what happened with that? We didn't see Teofimo fight Devin Haney next. He fought Composis. Even Charlo, like I said before, Charlo was claiming he gonna break Benavidez's neck and he gonna move up and knock him out. When Benavidez called him out and put a date on it, Charlo started backpedaling. So what's up with the false sense that if you call a fighter out, that means everything? But like you said, actions speak louder than words. So how come if Sean Porter really wanted to fight like he claimed in the media, I never got the answer to this question from Sean Porter or his fans or Terrence Crawford detractors. How come Sean Porter never petitioned to fight Terrence Crawford as a mandatory since he's getting a 60-40 split, which that's a championship split, not a mandatory?
You're not gonna get much advantage from me because I don't know why he didn't do that. Because like when Sean Porter always gets asked this question, he always likes to say that there's behind the scenes business that the fans don't know about, that we don't know about. Try to talk about how activating or mandatory, don't know if that's a real thing. Like he was just beating around the bush. He couldn't give a straight answer. I don't know if that was Sean Porter talking, or if that was Al Heyman talking, someone behind the scenes talking for where he couldn't give a lot of information. I don't know, because this was out of character for Sean Porter, because based off of his resume, you give him a fight, he'll make it happen. But in this case, Sean Porter did more talking than actually fighting or even activating his mandatory position. I don't know why he didn't do this from jump.
Yeah. Well, what I found most intriguing and the most interesting part about this whole segment of Sean Porter claiming he gonna fight Crawford and not petitioning is that when he actually answered the question when his own podcast asked him the question directly, it's funny because his podcast, partners or members, when they asked him, they even brought up the question in a fishy way, like, "Oh, I don't know if you want to answer this question. Answer this question is the question that everybody been asking," and they were hesitant asking Sean the question to begin with. If you peep the way the member asked Sean Porter the question, it wasn't until Sean from Fight Hype actually stated, "Why don't you activate your mandatory?" And that's when Sean Porter tried to explain the situation, and he said, "Most of y'all don't know ish about boxing. Most of y'all don't know if activating your mandatory is a real thing or not. As far as I know, it could be activating the mandatory is not a real thing, as far as I know. So this man trying to deny the fact that petitioning, requesting, activating, whatever you call it, is not a real thing in boxing. When Terrence Crawford own team, they came on my show. They went on Terrence Crawford own Instagram, and they told Shawn Porter, if you want to fight us, quit begging, quit asking for the fight, activate your mandatory, request to fight us. But what did Shawn Porter respond with? Y'all don't even know if activating the mandatory is a real thing or not. As far as I know, it's probably not a real thing. You know, that's why it's so questionable by Shawn Porter to say that, because it makes you look like you really don't want the fight. And like I said before, actions speak louder than words. It was Shawn who said, the difference between Shawn today and yesterday is that Shawn today, we know the business in and out, and we're not going to get screwed by the business. So he was alluding to that he knows he could force Terrence Crawford to a fight because he's the mandatory, and he never did. It took the WBO to order the fight. So for the people that keep pushing the false narrative and try to, you know, paint Terrence Crawford in a bad light, that he's been avoiding the Shawn Porter fight, is completely the contrary according to facts. You know, so because like I said before, not Shawn Porter, nor his fans, nor Terrence Crawford detractors have been able to answer the question why Shawn never petitioned to fight Terrence Crawford this whole time he was the mandatory. And why? And even the crazier part is that Shawn didn't even know if he was the mandatory or not anymore. He wanted to call Terrence Crawford, but he never contacted or called the WBO. You know, he keep talking about, yeah, I'm gonna call Terrence Crawford. You know, I'm gonna check up on him. I think I approached the fight the wrong way. When the whole time he should be calling the WBO. When the whole time he should be calling the WBA to question, am I the mandatory or not? Why did I lose my mandatory position? How I want to petition to fight Terrence Crawford next. These are the things you do if you really want to make the fight. And new media, we always keep the same energy to all the fighters. We tell JoJo the same thing, Ryan, Charlo, and Shawn Porter. It don't matter who you are. New media narrative is the whole absolute truth. And every single time, not when it comes to one topic, but when it comes to every single topic. And like I said before, you already know what time it is. AKHi always put it together like puzzle. So what's your last thoughts on that, or any topic you want to bring up to the table?
I mean, in regards to that, for anybody wondering, like, why didn't Shawn Porter go out of his way? Look who is going out of the way. We got another WBO mandatory in another weight class. Look at Shakur Stevenson. This man fought Toka Khan Clary and recently fought Jeremiah Nakatila just so he could get it, just so he could certify his position with Jamel Herring. That fight's on contract. That has to happen. It's either the same thing. That's the same position Crawford's in. It's the same position Jamel Herring's in. The only difference is Shakur Stevenson puts Herring in that position, not the WBO. The WBO didn't have to order this fight without Shakur Stevenson doing anything. Shakur Stevenson is the one who put pressure on Jamel Herring, and now Jamel Herring has an option: either fight Shakur to keep your belt or vacate the title. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. With this position, Shawn Porter didn't force Terrence Crawford into that. He didn't make Terrence Crawford he didn't put Terrence Crawford in an ultimatum. WBO did that, and that's what doesn't make any sense. We know that there's a mandatory position. We know you can force champions into these fights. We've seen it before multiple times in boxing. We know a mandatory position exists. So I don't know why Shawn Porter was trying to tell his fans on his podcast that it didn't. Like, I get that some of your fans might believe that, but the ones who can just look it up on Google or just go on the WBO website knows that exists. Right. Just like for the WBC, IBF, and WBA. So I don't know. Yeah, so if you guys think that what Shawn Porter is saying is truthful, just look at Shakur Stevenson, who's another mandatory.
Yeah, and what Shawn is doing, which is not a good look, is the exact same thing Ryan Garcia did when he was Devin Haney mandatory. The one thing in common Ryan and Shawn had was they both were mandatory to the champions. Ryan didn't petition to fight Devin Haney. Why? Because Ryan made it publicly known Devin Haney is the toughest out of the bunch. He the toughest out of the Fabulous Four, so he gonna save him for last, and he ain't trying to fight him right now. Ryan made that very clear, which is why he didn't want to fight Devin.
Ryan Garcia.
Yeah.
Ryan Garcia made it clear, and De La Hoya made it clear on multiple occasions that they keep saying that Devin Haney needs to show something, needs to prove something. They keep saying he's not exciting, which I keep asking, when does the champion have to prove something to the challenger? Why is Ryan Garcia talking as if he's the champion? You have not beaten the champion, nor were you elevated to champion. You're not even the interim champion anymore because you gave that title up, and that title now belongs to JoJo Diaz, who may potentially fight Devin Haney. Who knows? But why are you talking as if you're top dog?
Exactly.
That's the problem I have with Ryan Garcia.
When Devin,
it doesn't it doesn't make any sense. But continue.
Yeah, I mean, when Devin Haney beat the fighter Linares, who beat the best opponent on his resume, Luke Campbell, right? And the comparison I was making is that just like Ryan, Sean Porter was also the mandatory for Terrence Crawford, right? And he never petitioned either. It took the WBO to order the fight, and Sean Porter was shocked by the news, right? So, like I said, at the end of the day, we've seen a whole lot of crazy things in the sport of boxing this year. I mean, I didn't think Teofimo was going to take us to a capping journey. It's been not a pandemic, but a capdemic in the sport of boxing recently, from Ryan, Tio, and even Charlo. I never thought Charlo was going to backpedal when it came to the Benavidez fight, right? So I don't know. We'll see. I think Sean Porter will fight Terrence Crawford because it will make no sense whatsoever for him not to at this moment in time. But you never know. I mean, like I said, it haven't been positive on Sean Porter end as far as his actions. You know, it haven't been matching his words.
I got a question for you. What does Sean Porter have to lose? What reason, like any reason at all, for Sean Porter not to take the fight with Terrence Crawford? What could he lose?
Well, what he could lose is possibly get stopped, and that could ruin, like, as far as his image in a way. He probably think to himself, I just started my own podcast. I want to keep winning and promote it. But if I end up losing my next fight, and depending how I lose my next fight, that's going to take a little damage on my reputation. You know, Sean, even any fight he lost, he was in a close fight against Kell Brook, against Errol Spence. That was a split decision. But I truly believe Terrence Crawford is one of the special talent that he could beat fighters in their own style, in their own way. We've seen it time and time again. And I think Terrence could possibly walk Sean Porter into something because, see, Errol didn't have the one punch knockout power to actually catch Sean Porter coming in and put him out. But Terrence Crawford does. We've seen him knock out Kell Brook with one punch, and we've seen him do the same to pretty much all the guys he fought at 147, which is surprising, right? You know, he's supposed to be a boxer, but he done turned to a puncher boxer, not a boxer puncher, right? So with all them skills, I think he's now hesitant. He might be getting cold feet. I don't know, but I'm just saying, business sense, legacy sense, money sense makes no sense at all because this is his biggest fight, the biggest legacy fight right so far, and the biggest money fight so far since he's getting 40%.
It's just the thing is that I think what Sean Porter knows about Terrence Crawford is that the most dangerous thing about Terrence Crawford, if you ask every opponent from Amir Khan to Kell Brook, it's his timing. And if you've seen Sean Porter's history, Sean Porter's been dropped by fighters who could hit hard, but also wasn't known for hitting hard. Sean Porter's been dropped by Errol Spence, but he's also been dropped by Adrian Broner. And if you notice anything about two of those moments when he got dropped, it's not because the punch came out of nowhere or it was a wild shot. It was a well-timed and short shot. And Terrence Crawford, that's his trademark. That's exactly how he stopped Kell Brook. And I think Sean Porter recognizes that. And with Terrence Crawford, the punch can come from anywhere. That's just how skilled the fighter he is. It's not Terrence Crawford's power, but it's his timing to hit you when you don't see the punch coming in, and that is power. The hardest hit punch in boxing is the punch you never see coming.
Yeah, And I could guarantee you this: one thing Terrence Crawford won't do is vacate his belt to his mandatory the way Canelo Alvarez did, the way Lomachenko did. That's one thing Terrence won't do. Terrence is a real champion. If you are a real champion, you will not vacate your title. In order to avoid a tough legacy mandatory fight like a Charlo, Devin Haney, or even a Sean Porter for a Terrence Crawford case. And I can guarantee you Sean Porter wouldn't do that. In fact, he already made it clear that he's ready to show the world why he's pound for pound #1. So with that being said, Joey, excuse me, Joey, man, great talking with you. I'm gonna go ahead and pick up the last couple callers before I end the show.
Likewise, Aki. Always great talking to you, man. Take it easy.
Take it easy. Appreciate you. How you doing, Aki? Who this is and where you calling from?
Yeah, what's up, Aki? It's Cannon from Albany, New York.
Oh, what's going on? That's my man. I was waiting for it to call. So, do you think that's the question of the day? Do you think Terrence Crawford is going to vacate his belt to his tough mandatory Sean Porter the way Loma and Canelo Alvarez did to Devin and Canelo? I mean, excuse me, and Charlo?
I want to say no, but I have like a really weird feeling that he would, because I've been watching other YouTube channels that have been kind of breaking down the whole situation about Crawford and Porter. And I want to say from Crawford's angle, I don't think Crawford is wanting to fight Porter just for the sense of at first, when Crawford defeated Kell Brook, he said after the fight, "Oh well, I want Manny Pacquiao, and if we can't get that fight, then we'll, take a look at other fights into the future." But then, contrary to popular belief, Sean Porter said after the fight to Terrence Crawford, saying, "Hey, whenever you're ready, I'll be ready. I'll be ready in May to face you." And Crawford said to Porter, "Well, if I can't get my fight with Pacquiao, then I'll come back and revisit you." And I believe once he couldn't get the negotiations with Pacquiao, he said to Porter to correct me if I'm wrong. He told him to stand down, right? Because Porter said, he wanted to fight Crawford at first, which made everybody thought that, he was actually really interested in wanting to have that fight. But fast forward to, I guess a couple months forward, leading into now, Porter has been kind of showing, on and off signals of wanting the Crawford fight at one point and not having it. And I kind of just think it's just a matter of one, contract negotiations, and two, just lack of communication on both teams to actually determine on how this fight is going to get made, and making sure that both sides are willing to agree to a proper deal to make sure that this fight can happen. Because Crawford, I would believe Crawford would want to fight the best, but from his own energy and his drive and motivation, it just seems like Crawford's not taking this fight seriously to fruition to say, "Hey, Sean Porter, if you really want to fight me, let's just get this out the way." Because Crawford knows that if he beats Porter, this is going to put a really big win on his resume. But if he loses to Porter, that would also put a huge dent on his career as well. So I don't know. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, well, that was
from my perception.
Yeah, that was a long answer, but when it comes to a lot of people on the internet and the media, they have been misinforming the fans, because a lot of things you brought up, that's what a lot of people did. A lot of YouTube channels have been misinforming the fans, because like you brought up, when Crawford knocked out Kell Brook, yeah, Crawford did say, "I want to fight Manny Pacquiao next, and if I can't," he did say on an interview, "I want to then I'm gonna fight my mandatory Porter." He said, if it ain't Pacquiao, they asked him, "Well, if Pacquiao fight don't happen, who you gonna fight next?" He said, "Well, it's gonna be my mandatory Porter," because that was his mandatory at the time, right? So fast forward to when they couldn't make the Pacquiao fight, or during the negotiations during the Pacquiao fight, on the zone. Actually, the interview you were talking about, they asked AK and Barack asked Terrence Crawford on that. They asked him, "What about Sean Porter?" He's saying he's gonna knock you out, this and that, and the third. He ready in May. Crawford responded with, "I seen the slick things Sean Porter been saying. I'm trying to make the Pacquiao fight happen, but if the Pacquiao fight don't happen, then for sure, 100%, I'm fighting Porter next." That's what Terrence Crawford said. I reported on the news. I dropped it, right? So when the Pacquiao fight did not come to fruition, that's when obviously Porter is available to fight Crawford. Then Kenny Porter met up with Bob Arum, and Bob Arum, he obviously talked to Kenny as far as what kind of offer they could present to Sean Porter. Obviously, Bob Arum gave Sean Porter a low ball offer. We talked about that on more than one occasion. Bob Arum, I think, was $1 million and an upside on pay-per-view. But Sean felt like that's not fair. That's not enough. That's what Sean felt. He said $2 million is an insult to begin negotiations. So if that's the case, if Sean Porter felt like whatever Bob Arum offered him was an insult, the same offer Mean Machine took, the same offer Benavidez took when they fought Crawford, he felt like that offer given to him is an insult due to his credentials. So my question to you is, as a mandatory, how come he didn't petition to fight Terrence Crawford if he really wanted that fight in order to take the fight to purse bid? Because now is out of Crawford's hands because it's Bob who's making the offer, right? So why didn't Sean take the fight to purse bid in order to fight to force the fight?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I was thinking, like, as a mandatory, don't you have to wait until the offer is made to you and then you can, make that decision to say, okay, well, if I'm not going to get like a good deal out of this fight, then I'm going straight to purse bid anyway. So then that way it could just be similar to like the Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos situation where, if let's just say theoretically Triller buys out, this fight for like, $7 point something million, then that means they could actually get like a better investment onto that fight. And, I'm pretty sure if Porter took that risk with Crawford, he probably would make way more than $2 million. And if you make a pay-per-view, that would definitely triple the amount of money that he wants to get out of that fight. But I definitely agree with you.
To break it down, so to summarize some of the things you brought up, if Porter petitioned to fight Crawford as a mandatory, the fight will be ordered. That's the first thing that's going to happen. The WBO is going to order the fight. They're going to give them 30 days, 90 days, whatever the time span, may be, most likely 30 days to negotiate a fight. If Sean is not happy with the Bob Arum offer, if Bob sticks to that $1 million, if Bob doesn't budge from that $1 million offer and the pay-per-view upside he's given Sean, that's when Sean could take it to purse bid, and obviously he will get a 60-40 split. And let's say hypothetically Triller throws 10 million bid, 12 million bid, or let's say 10 million bid. So if Triller throws 10 million bid, Sean Porter ends up making $4 million fighting Crawford, which is his highest payday, till this day. You know what I'm saying? So why didn't Sean petition to fight Terrence Crawford as the mandatory if he really wanted to fight? Because we seen Bob trying to lowball him. So the smart thing to do next to get a fair offer is to petition to fight him, to petition to fight Crawford in order to take the fight to purse bid. So why do you think he didn't do that?
Well, I personally think Sean Porter probably didn't want to take the risk of taking the fight to purse bid because he thought at first, like, if the fight itself wasn't going to pay him that much, then he probably would miss out on a lot of money. And then if he loses to Crawford, then he probably didn't want to, risk like a low payday, in his next fight.
Yeah, but how will he lose out a lot of money though? how would he lose out a lot of money if the fight go to purse bid? Because that's a way to make more money. You know, that's a way to actually get PBC to pick up the
like,
fight.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I probably would say, like, if anything, if Porter, like, you know, if Porter is just afraid about the fact of, like, what would happen if he loses to Crawford in devastating manner, that probably would, you know, ruin his image as a fighter. And maybe that could show like a sign of ducking right there, right?
Yep. So that's what I'm saying. So after all, now if you look at it from the factual standpoint, who looks like is avoiding the other guy? Who?
It seems more like Porter
That's
at this point,
because he's the mandatory. The mandatory could force the champion. A champion cannot force the mandatory, right? So, and that's the point I'm trying to get to. I just wanted to walk you to it so you can understand. That's how a lot of the media outlets been brainwashing the fans by telling them, oh, you know, Sean been calling out Crawford, but so did Ryan. Wasn't Ryan calling out Tank? You know what I'm saying? Calling out don't mean a thing in boxing because we in a capdemic. You know, it's a whole lot of capping going on. But we know one thing for sure and two things for certain. Sean Porter, as a mandatory, he could force the Terrence Crawford fight, and he didn't. It took the WBO to order the fight, and now he being quiet. You know, he deleted his tweet. So hopefully he take the fight. I just hope he don't back out of the fight. So, you know, that being said, Terrence, you know, when I asked you the question, do you think Terrence is going to vacate the way Canelo did? Terrence has already said, he already accepted the fight. He said, I can't wait. That's what I've been begging for. I've been begging for an elite fighter to fight me, and now Sean Porter is being forced to fight me. So come fight night, I'm going to show the whole world why I'm pound for pound #1. Be ready. So does that sound like him vacating the belt in your opinion?
No, definitely not. It's just that, like, my only concern towards Crawford and my criticism against him is that why wasn't he pushing this fight a lot sooner when he decided to move up to 147? Because it just doesn't make any sense why he would just try to go with the easy route of trying to take out Jeff Horn.
Well,
when,
he did.
You know, after
he did actually. He called, you know, actually Crawford came out and said it's funny that Porter didn't call me out till he lost to Errol Spence. But when he had the title, the whole time he never called me out. But when Porter lost to Errol Spence,
yeah.
Yes.
Yep, definitely.
But see, the thing is, when Porter lost to Errol Spence, if you in Crawford position, would you go after the winner or the loser?
I go after the winner.
And that's what Crawford did. Crawford been calling out Errol. He was calling out Keith. Keith and Porter didn't call out Sean till they lost. When Keith lost to Pacquiao, he was interested in Crawford. When Porter lost to Errol, he got interested in Crawford, at least publicly. But Crawford, the whole time he was calling out everybody when they were winning. And then when the fighters that continue to win, he kept calling them out. Like Errol Spence, when he beat Sean Porter, that's who Crawford wanted to fight. It's the winner, Errol Spence. So he felt like, why should I fight somebody coming off a loss when I'm trying to fight the fight of the decade against Errol Spence? So that's where the whole confusion come along, because a lot of fans that love Errol, they don't want Errol to fight Crawford because they feel like, oh man, Crawford is a threat to Errol. I'd rather Porter fight Crawford because I got nothing to lose. Errol already beat Porter. You know, so that's how the game goes to a lot of the media outlets that's emotionally attached. They report the news emotionally in order to fit their agenda, in order to not get so Terrence Crawford won't get the meaningful fights he needs, like the Errol Spence fight. Truth be told, the fight we all want to see is Errol. But since we can't get that fight, I'm fine with Sean Porter for the moment in time. But Sean Porter, though, he better take that fight. So if Sean Porter doesn't take that fight next, it's good. He gonna make all his fans and the Terrence Crawford detractors look extremely terrible. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. I would definitely agree with that. It's just that I've been criticizing Crawford for quite a while now for his selection of opponents, and you know, I just don't want to see him fight another fighter that I know he could beat. because I know he's not like Canelo Alvarez, and I think he's levels above Canelo, and I just wish Crawford could just be like you and me to say, hey, you know, I'm fighting all these guys, and honestly, I really wish he actually did let the same amount of heavy lifting compared to Errol Spence of him taking out Porter, Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, everybody that has been let the top dog at 147.
Yeah, well, he bit. I mean, he tried. I mean, like I said, you know, he is on the top rank side. The only mistake he made was signing with Bob, because now obviously he can't get the fights he wants because of that. But he been calling out Thurman. He been calling out Errol. He been wanting to fight all the top dogs at welterweight, especially the top two. So, I mean, if Canelo was gonna fight Andrade and Charlo back at 160 when he was gunning for undisputed, nobody would have complained. Nobody would have complained about if Canelo avoided somebody who lost to Charlo or somebody who lost to Andrade. So, you know, Crawford gunning after Errol Spence and Thurman, who were undefeated at the time. That's what you were supposed to do, is go after the top dogs. But again, it's not his fault that they didn't want to fight him, because he was too much of a risk due to how good he was, right? But there's some mistakes Crawford made on his end, which is continue to stick with Bob and be loyal to a person that's not loyal to you. I think that's the only mistake he made. But that's a business mistake, as far as, you know, him not knowing the business, you know, the way he, you know, like Floyd Mayweather did. But Crawford is a fighter, not a businessman. You know, that's more of a, I say, Crawford advisor fault. Whoever is advising Crawford told him to do the wrong thing by sticking with Top Rank as much as he did. But with that being said, man, you know, my studio was dying on me. So great talking with you like always. And any last thing you want to say before I let you go?
Oh yeah, definitely. I just want to say I appreciate everything that you do for the channel. I'm happy to be a part of what the following. To hell with Tyson Fury. I wish Deontay Wilder killed that man in the ring this past weekend. But thank you, everything for what you do. I was gonna probably say one last thing. If you could, I would like for you to have a debate with this one other YouTuber. His name is BFTB Boxing. He's a really good YouTuber. He has his own YouTube channel. Check him out if you want to. I think he could possibly bring a good debate about the Sean Porter, Terrence Crawford situation. And I think that would be a good collaboration if you guys chatted that out on a live platform.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I would love to. You know, hopefully, you know, he calls in, or I could go to his channel and we could chat it up. You know what I'm saying? I do want to hear another perspective, but like I said, a lot of people have been misinformed and misinforming the public as well by not pointing out the facts, you know, without sugarcoating them or without any filter. Like I said, if you go, the fact that no Terrence Crawford, you could ask this person you just named to me, or anybody else, Sean Porter himself, why he never petitioned to fight Terrence Crawford as a mandatory when he's going to get a 60-40 split. I want to know the answer to that. If no justification and a good answer have been given to why he didn't, then it just clearly shows that Sean Porter didn't want the fight. You know, like I said, we in a capdemic. You know what I mean? So this has been a whole lot of capping going on. So we'll see, you know, but hopefully he do call in. Do me a favor, hit him up and tell him to call in. And like I said, on Split Decision, I love to talk to everybody, anybody who's somebody, and even somebody that's not a nobody. So with that being said, great talking with you, my brother, and I'm gonna talk to you next time.
Hey, thank you very much, Chucky. I'll see you around.
All right, peace. And like I said, I wanted to spend more time with you guys, but the camera died on me, the studio dying on me, the battery running low. So with that being said, great talking with everybody that called in. Shout out to Bill Haney, and to be continued on the next episode of AKHi TV. Peace. And I'm on to the next one. Subscribe, click that like button. It's free.
gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble! Hold it, you're not that pretty. I'm a bad man! Let's do the world! Let's do the world! Let's do the world!
One God. Allah Muhammad is his final messenger. That's what I said, Larry, on the Bungle fight. Thanking you.